Hey, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. It's 9 o'clock. It was weird. I stayed out of town last night, and we were driving back in at 7 a.m. and it was so dark. And I'm like, this is just weird. I don't like being in the dark at 7 a.m. And I know you're going to tell me to shut it.
No, I'm not going to tell you to shove it. It's too early in the morning. I don't have any sass in me to tell you to shove. Let's see. I'll tell you. I will say it's -2 degrees here in Alaska right now in the Anchorage area. It's probably like 60 already where you are. Oh, I'm sorry. It's -8. I was wrong.
Let me look. It says 37.
Oh, it's like spring. Sunrise is now here at 7:57 a.m. and we have over 12-hour days because the sunset is at 8:14 p.m. That's math. We've talked about that. So our days are getting longer, but we're not getting any warmer temperatures, and I'm about to go insane.
Well, I've used up all of my firewood making fires, and so I now have to go buy some more.
Yeah. What is the day like, though?
With the weather? So it is supposed to get up to 69 degrees today. Don't throw things at me.
I hate you.
Yeah, we're supposed to have a blizzard there was supposed to be a blizzard on Wednesday, and then there was, 5 snowflakes, and none of them stuck to the ground. It was like, it's just weather roulette around here. And then the next day it was t-shirt weather. It was awesome.
That's crazy. So in my phone, when I look at the weather forecast, it says like it's going to be in the 30s by Friday and Saturday. And then when I relook, then it just keeps pushing it out. Because at this point, like 30s would be amazing. Like 30s are like when I take my coat off and I don't wear my coat anymore because it warms up so much. You know what I'm saying? You should know what I'm saying.
Oh, I know.
There's such a dramatic difference between like 32 and -8.
Yes.
So over it. Oh, but the good news is we found a bakery in Anchorage that is absolutely OMG. Like, we've already gone back. It's called Eva's Bakery, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm in heaven. And I just can't wait for another birthday to come. I'm like, we're going to get a cake there. We're just going to get cupcakes all week long. Although I lost 12 pounds. Did I tell you that I'm down 12 pounds?
That is amazing, because I think I'm up 12 pounds. So you're shipping it to me. My mother-in-law came to visit this week, and she made cookies. So there's just like cookies all over the counter. And I ate them. I had a cookie for breakfast.
I think that like we can't, one of the things I'm learning is you can't feel guilty about what you eat. Like you can't take on, like in my mind, because I've been heavy for, like over a decade at this point, like really heavy. And so it's like this mindset when you eat something bad, like a cookie, then you think you're bad. And then you start thinking, well, F it. I ate 3 cookies. I might as well eat 10 cookies. And then you're just like eating more. But really having a cookie and enjoying, like I had a cupcake on St. Patrick's Day and I ate the cupcake. Yesterday, my husband was trying to show love to me, so he got me some more cupcakes. He went out. I ate 1 cupcake. Like I'm learning how to have some discipline. So having a cookie is awesome.
Yeah, I don't feel guilty. I just realize that I need to not eat them for breakfast. And just because they're sitting on the counter, I'm gonna have cookies I walk by. Why not?
It would be hard for me to resist.
I like no willpower, none. And then my in-laws had come to visit, and so we decided to do like the Easter egg hunt, while they were here. So we put, I put M&Ms and some jelly beans and the Sour Patch Kids. I had to dumped it in a bowl and I use a spoon to put them in the little eggs. Well, because they're not wrapped, I was of course eating these. I have no willpower. That's all I'm saying. I have no willpower. Hey, Samar.
That's so cool that Samar in Beirut is watching. Oh my gosh, I love that we're global.
I know. That is cool.
It is. So if you're watching, tell us where you're coming from, just like Samar did, and tell us what the weather's like. And you just got off spring break, Alice. Like this is your last weekend of spring break, correct?
Yes, I consider yesterday as my last day of spring break. So today I have to do lesson plans, and my co-teacher's getting married today. Now, of course, because of COVID, it's small, so I'm not there. He went down to Texas to get married, so I'm going to cover his classes on Monday and Tuesday, and I like to do that because he lets me write all the lesson plans, so then I can teach something different.
That's really cool. Well, congratulations to him, and congratulations to you for writing lesson plans.
I like writing lesson plans. They're fun. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to use graspable math with my geometry students. I talked to the Algebra 2 teacher because I noticed some of my students, I would say, I'm like, okay, we're doing the Pythagorean theorem or whatever. And they're like, I didn't really finish algebra from when we had the shutdown in the spring. So I thought, well, let me find out what things that the Algebra 2 teacher feels like is really important. And then I'll try and weave some of that in here at the end of the year. And he said, I just really want them to feel more flexible with numbers and to be able to use graspable math, which I definitely was not expecting him to say, but I'm like, okay, cool, I can do that. So if you haven't checked out graspable math, let me put this here in the comments.
I like our friend is saying willpower is overrated.
It is overrated. I agree.
Okay, so check out graspable. I thought you were saying grass math.
Yeah, it's a good thing that I wrote it.
It was like some hippie stuff.
Well, let me show it real quick. And so
show it. Please show it.
Math.com. And I will add my screen share. My screen. Not that one. Yes, this one. Share, and it's here. Okay. So you can see this?
Okay, do you see at the top? Where it says StreamYard has access? That's what I was talking about, that red thing. Anyway.
No, I don't see anything. Okay, do you see my graspable map?
No, I see StreamYard destinations. Can you see the screen?
Well, stop that. That's not what I wanted to do. Okay, let me do it would be really great if I was good at technology. Okay, how about that?
If you're not good at technology, I see it. I see graspable map. Graspable.
So here you go to math. And what's really cool about it is that it doesn't allow you to do your math wrong. There's a little bit of a learning curve to it, though. So I'm going to insert a math expression, and I'm going to do like 2 + 3 × 4 + 6 squared minus 1/3 or 1/2, whatever number I thought.
It sounded like you just said Uranus.
Did I?
It sounded like it. I love when people say Uranus.
I don't think I said that, but okay. So in here, what I really like about this is trying to help the kids to be flexible with numbers. We're taught this order of operations, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, which I just think should be illegal. PEMDAS gives you the impression that you have to go left to right and that there's only one way to do it. So when you click on the operations, you'll see that it wiggles. It's like, you can't do that. And I click here and it would add it together. So I do the parentheses, and then I do the exponents, and then I do the multiplying, and I do the adding. I'm going to undo because I don't want to do it that way. So what I like to do with the graspable math is I take the equation and I put it on there twice, and I say do it 2 different ways. Because you can actually do the exponents first if you know a + b squared, which you did in algebra, and you can distribute before you add all those if you wanted to. So just showing that there's different approaches and different ways to do it. And I think it helps students to feel more comfortable with, I don't know about you, but I get a lot of anxiety. Like,
why did you just take it down? I was just finally understanding.
Oh, I can put it back. Right, here it comes. You see it?
I want to see what you tell your students, like how you do it 2 different ways. Because, I really did learn like there's only one way to do it, and otherwise you're not going to get the same, solution or whatever the hell you call it. Sorry.
Yeah, it just depends. Solution is possible. Simplification. All right, so I would put it up there twice. And I'd say, okay, well, what do you want to do first? And then I tell them, don't do that. We're going to do this differently. So one of the things you might want to do is take this, you can pick up this -1/2 and bring it over here. Now, while you might not normally do this first, we're going to do the adding and subtracting first, even though PEMDAS says do adding and subtracting last. I mean, you don't have to do that. So long as you know properties, the community, like I just use the commutative property, right? And so now when I do this minus sign, you see it wiggles and it's like you can't do that. And that is because I have to have, let me see.
Hi, Terry.
I have to have a common denominator. So, like I said, it won't let you do it wrong. So then I get that common denominator, and now I can combine them together. I always do it one too many, right? 3/2. And can I distribute? No, it won't let me. It won't let you do it wrong. I can multiply the whole thing by 3. I don't know why you would want to, but the point is just because you can, right? You don't have to do it in a particular way, but you do have to preserve having equivalent expressions. So you might do the exponents first. I really wouldn't do that one first necessarily, but just to look at it and explore what the different properties are and how it works together. I could add those together first. Can I multiply these? I cannot. I have to first do the exponent and put those together.
Oh my gosh. Where was this?
I know, it's so
freaking
cool.
Amazing. It's freaking amazing.
And then when you pull this down, it shows all of the steps that you did.
So that's beautiful.
I think it is. So I'm going to simplify this up. And the idea just not be just that you just mindlessly click through it, is that you'd want them to explain it. What happens? What did you do differently? Why were you able to do that? I always double click it one too many. Get the common denominator. Okay, so, and then pull it down. So you can see 2 different ways. I get the same answer either way, but here's 2 different approaches to it. Oh.
So are we not seeing the very end of it? Because I feel like we wouldn't end it at 603/2. Wouldn't we divide it?
It's a decimal.
Okay. See, this is the stuff that I was taught. Like you don't leave it like that. Like you're not finished if you leave it in that form. Is that what you teach your kids, or is that something?
Definitely not. I would prefer they leave it as 603/2.
Wow. I wish I would have had you as a math teacher.
Yeah, well, I've decided all of my tests are open internet, and I'm not going back. So
I saw that. What do you mean? Like just people can Google, your students can Google, and you're okay with that?
Not only am I okay with it, I tell them to. So when they're working on their assessment, I go around and I'm like, okay, well, central angle. You clearly are just sitting here staring at it. Why don't you Google that? Like we do in the real world.
Yeah.
In the real world,
There's a lot of stuff I Google.
Bathroom, but we do Google it when we don't know something. So
it's true. It's true. And when my kids ask me, oh my gosh, can I tell you something about my teaching?
Yeah, please.
I was reading, God, I wish I could tell you who I was reading, but it was talking about curiosity and how often the curiosity is killed out of our kids as soon as they start kindergarten and first grade, because there's so many kids, you can't answer all the kids. And parents too, like parents and teachers, we both kind of kill curiosity. And I'm not saying this as a mean thing. I'm just saying because kids ask a million questions, and anyway, I realized, Terry, why would you prefer the fraction? That's a good question.
Why is the decimal better?
See, Terry and I must have learned the same math. See, I'm telling you. Anyway, see, fractions are to me, unfinished business. That's what I was taught. And so anyway, all these questions, and I realized I started thinking about, so my mission this year has been to get my kids more curious. And I feel like I have failed them because they seem less curious than they used to. And I think it's because I've been shutting down their questions. And so this week I tried to, especially with my little 5 or 6 year old, my kindergartner, And she started having questions, and I just started answering her questions. She kept asking more questions, and I got so excited. I was like, this is what it's supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? It was good. I felt like it was a win.
Awesome.
Ooh, I think
no, Mr.
Tim?
Not off limits. Guys, that the world has changed. The internet exists and I'm not talking about just because of COVID, but the invention of Wolfram Alpha should change how we teach. In fact, that is in my book, Teaching Math with Google Apps. My co-author, Diana, she had a student that just brought her this beautiful homework from calculus. And she's like, wow, how did you get all of this done? And then he did terrible on the test. And it's like, what happened? You had this amazing homework. He's like, well, I just went to this website, Wolfram Alpha, Ms. Harrington. And her response was, well, then I need to ask different questions. It's not, how can I keep kids from getting on the internet and using these resources? It's, well, how do I get them to explain their strategy? Can you show it more than one way? Can they apply it to something around us? If it can be used on, in fact, the very first day of school, I instruct all the kids, their first assignment is to install PhotoMath. And then they all laugh at me because they already have it.
Right.
How do I keep kids from cheating? Is it cheating? I mean, if a computer can do it, it's not critical thinking here, right? Showing all the steps, show your work. It's just obsolete. I don't care if they show their work. I care if they show their thinking, their strategy. Can they apply it to something? And so then I just challenge myself to ask different questions. So when you say it is open internet, then I have to design it in a way that gets them to think through it and to give, if the answer is 5 and I asked for 5 and they got it with Wolfram Alpha, well, that's on me. Then so what's the point? I mean, what they've shown is that they can get the answer. If someone were to somehow walk up to them on the street and give them a math problem out of a textbook, which, doesn't happen. So they aren't without resources. They could get it.
I love that you said that. I don't care if they show their work. I care if they show their thinking. I love that.
Yeah, thanks.
But you got to admit, that's like kind of, okay, so Terry and I were both like, why would you leave the fraction? Because both of us have been ingrained that leaving a fraction is unfinished business, okay? So, like, that's kind of like going against every type of, yeah, it's going against everything that we have been taught. So, just saying.
I'm going to see if I can find this article that someone posted in.
Is this Tim? What Teachers on Fire? That's Tim. Is it KV or Cavi? I don't know how to say his last name, but I love what you're saying about application and transfer. That definitely pushes my math teaching. Yes. Okay. Our guest is here, Alice. So let's wrap up the math business.
Well, hold on one second. So I was on UCube's Facebook group and someone shared an article. So I just want to see if I can grab it real quick. This one? Okay, I don't see it. Forget it. I'll try and find it later. Maybe we could talk about it next week. All right, let's do it.
I can't wait. Next week. Yes, okay. All right, so we're going to bring up our guest in just a second. Now, you know him better than I do. Do you want to give him his introduction?
Yeah, absolutely. So Dr. Fields, he has, hey, how's it going?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to have you here. How was your week? How's the weather there?
You know what? The weather in St. Louis is not really predictable. However, it's a lot of sun out and everyone is smiling on this side of the river. And so we're doing very well.
Excellent. Excellent. Don't tell Melody about the nice weather.
I understand.
Whatever. I'm resigned. I'm so resigned. I don't care anymore. Dr. Fields, it's so cool. And you're in St. Louis. I grew up in Missouri. I'm on the other side of the river. I was from St. Joseph, Missouri, where the Pony Express started.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. Well, hello, my fellow Missourian. It's great to formally meet you.
It's great to meet you also. So tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, currently I serve as an assistant superintendent of human resources, and to transition into the human resources area during COVID and during all of this has been a tremendous learning experience. Let me say that all of us are addicted to learning. And there has not been a shortage of learning this year for all of us, but in particular for me, I'm serving in a newer capacity. Last year for 2020, I was the National Distinguished Principal from Missouri, had a complete honor. I was part of the process for nominating and having our new 2021 National Distinguished Principal from Missouri out of Springfield. And so we're doing some really cool things for the state of Missouri as it relates to leadership, especially the Missouri Association of Elementary School Principals. I served as a building principal for 6 years, 3 of which in an environment that I would describe as an affluent area and 3 of which in an urban area. And so when I tell you it was the best learning ever, I was able to learn different systems. Students are students, and I have not been a place where students don't need for you to see them as individuals, don't need for you to teach them as individuals, and don't need for you to care what they bring to the table. Those things are false regardless of where you are. And so the amount of learning was spectacular, but also the amount of individuals who I've had a pleasure of working with who put students first. Sometimes people say, well, are you data driven or are you student centered? And why do they have to be mutually, exclusive? Why do they have to be mutually exclusive? And
I hope they're not.
They're not. And so I'll put something else
without data.
Exactly. You can't improve without data.
Exactly, but it's not, as a classroom teacher, data is often used to punish all involved, not as a good thing. So that's where they come up with that.
And I think that's the unfortunate piece. And so I would say I'm certainly student-centered, data-driven, but equity-focused across the board. And so at the end of the day, it is a snapshot in motion when we get a chance to meet people and meet students, and we want to do everything that we can to help them have a prosperous life, career, and anything else they so choose to do. And so that's a little bit about me. Again, St. Louis, Missouri here, Cardinals fan, Blues fan.
Okay.
We don't have a football team, but we do adopt the Kansas City Chiefs. And so
there you go. You just
the Chiefs,
best friend.
The Chiefs will be back next year, and we're all pretty excited.
Can you see my Patrick Mahomes cereal box up there? And one of the magazines that I got him, I don't know, it's right wreck my head, but
Patrick is amazing. Yep. His dedication to Missouri is spectacular.
Yes, and he's part of my favorite, he's an owner now, my favorite baseball team, which we are kind of rivals in baseball because I am a Royals fan all the way. But it's okay.
I'm not familiar. I thought it was only one baseball team in Missouri.
What? You are now. I don't even know if those are fighting words. That was the worst thing ever. All right.
So I don't know if we can bring this up. Your life is the vaccine. Is that what you texted me yesterday? You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So as educators across the board, I mean, when I said it's a learning experience for the education system, it's been a lot. And so how do we make sure our staff members in this instance, because the vaccine is not available for students, but how do we make sure our staff members are safe? They feel safe. They're protected as they do what their passion and what their skill set will allow them to do. And so we understand that we can't ignore the role that health plays into that. And so the vaccine is becoming more and more readily available here in Missouri. I know on the Kansas side, they did a spectacular job, and Missouri is certainly doing a better job as it relates to rolling out those vaccines. And so we're excited about that. We're excited for our teachers and our staff, but we're also excited for our students because it's just another step forward of establishing the new norm. I won't say get back to normal because we have shown that we can change some systems, some structures, some policies, all of those things that we probably should have changed decades ago in education. And so this is an avenue and a platform that will allow us to do that. And so everything vaccine, tell you about it, but I doubt that this would be a situation where I wouldn't be preaching to the choir because we all have turned into scholars of the vaccine.
Yeah, I got both of my shots. And Alaska, I have everybody.
Oh my gosh, yes, I gotta say for Alaska, like everybody can get it now. And I thought I was gonna have to wait a lot longer because I'm not in a public classroom right now. But I didn't. I have my first shot down. But I'm surprised. I do know some educators who are not getting it. They're choosing not to get it. So people that, I didn't think that would reject it. But yeah. But I'm so glad that your district is doing that. You were able to oversee that today. So that's really cool.
Absolutely.
So
go ahead.
I was looking you up, man. I was like, checking your background, Dr. Fields, and you're like this buzzword, this educational equity. Like you're pretty hardcore about it. I see a lot of people talking about it, and that's why you're calling it like it's a buzzword right now. And then I read the blog post, and I'm going to drop that in the comments if you're okay. If I drop the blog post in the comments,
Absolutely.
But tell us about why you chose to just go ahead. I'm gonna let you start. Where
I think sometimes in education we use a lot of jargon, not understanding as much as we should that there are some non-educator entities and some non-educational personnel folks who can help us with our common goal. And essentially that is to make sure that students are feeling safe, they are doing well, they are learning, and that we're meeting them where they are so that they can be successful. A barrier for years and years and years parents have continued to tell us is sometimes the words that we use and they're not familiar with it. Well, education can be a little buzzwordy as well. Someone reached out not long ago and said, hey, Dr. Fields, I know you're in HR and I'm going to be interviewing. Can you give me a few buzzwords to use? And I said, well, expand on that a little bit. They said, well, I want to make sure I get the job, so I have to use these terms. And so this isn't a knock at them or anything like that. I think this is what we have turned into. And I think for me, I've always been big on language because language can be that barrier for us doing some great work. Now, educational equity has been around for a while. I'll focus on equity in particular. It's been in education for a while. However, it was never really defined as much as we would like for it to be. But there was an illustration that became popular over the last few years, and that's the illustration of watching the baseball game and some students, and some are standing, some are on boxes, some are on a ramp.
Right.
And I really understood the premise of what it was trying to convey. But we take things so literal in education sometimes. And from my standpoint, it really led to a lot of deficit model thinking, and just if you give kids this, they'll be able to see, and it's a photo op and all of that. And quite frankly, it's not equity. I was able to open up by stating my experiences include not only being in urban environments or schools that would be defined as being an urban environment, but affluent environments. And I've been able to juxtapose those experiences to see, what inequity sound and look like. And so when you combine that with, for the last 3 or 4 years or so, I've been heavy in consultant work, presentations, all of those various different things with equity. And I've been able to work with a vast array of scholars and researchers, and just looking at some of the things related to educational equity. And so part of my work as of recent is trying to properly define it as a now. We know that terms do evolve. But we felt as if the term that we use right now to define it, as well as the imagery that's provided in the blog posts, and then something soon that we're excited about, is something that will help us move forward.
I love that. And so when you're talking about deficit, using the deficit language, and the word, the buzzword just went out of my head. But when we come through a deficit thing, when I was reading your blog post, it's because we are trying to make kids succeed in a system that is already failing them. Like it's not a system built for them. And that's why the deficit thinking comes about in the first place, because we're trying to put them in a system that had excluded them. And I love how you said that had been formally excluded instead of using like underrepresented. And so this is where I'm learning. And you even ask, like, what are you doing about it? And that's what I'm learning, is that like we're always changing, we're always evolving, we're getting better. And and I had never thought of it that way, because when you talked about that image, I was like, okay, why is that image so wrong? And then you started talking about deficit coming from that. And yes, I often wonder, how do we get our kids in there when the system is already built against them? It like kind of is always fighting. It's like this. So I always feel like I'm lost in that.
Yeah, and I appreciate your vulnerability as it relates to that. All of us are on our journey somewhere as it relates to educational equity. I think we do. But our experiences help us understand them better. And so I think the image has done us justice as it relates to these conversations. I stated in the blog post that I don't recall having as many conversations about educational equity prior to this image. I think it's a great conversation starter, and I really do understand the premise. But as scholars, we typically dive deeper into what we do. And when we dive deeper, if there are some things that we see that are not sitting well or that are having an adverse effect on what we're trying to accomplish, then we bring those things up collectively and we go from there. And so that was part of the blog post. And we're excited about what we're going to do moving forward.
Do you want to tell a little bit about what you're moving forward? Or are we going to?
So
I got some more links to drop.
Well, on first things first is on April the 10th, there will be a 90-minute webinar, how to achieve educational equity. I tested it at the Missouri Association Elementary School Principals Conference. I have the secondary Missouri Principals Conference next weekend actually, and it's going to be a little bit of it. And the feedback was just so tremendous. It led to me doing some writing on every Saturday, every Sunday over the weekend. We have this gorgeous place here in St. Louis called the CIC, and it's just heaven from a mental standpoint. You're just able to think and process. And so I hadn't been in a process like this since the dissertation, and I was just writing. And so I'm happy that not only April the 10th, we will have the actual webinar, but that week, and this is something I haven't said yet, but that week I'm going to also drop a book with the same title, How to Achieve Educational Equity. And so I appreciate you all allowing me to serve in this role on this platform that you all have created. But to be able to announce that it was something that was organic, it did come from the feedback, and it's something that we want to do to move forward. And so I have to say, just as a teaser, not only does it do a decent job of breaking down the image in terms of what it does well, but also where we need to grow. It looks at educational equity within all of the roles I've had. So I break it down from a teacher standpoint, from a principal standpoint, things I've done, from a district level standpoint, and then from a state standpoint, serving on multiple state boards and being involved in various state committees, and being involved in a lot of different work. And so we break those things down. We provide some type of framework to make that happen. And then I'm also excited that there is an equity audit included as well. I know when I was looking for some various different things to do, I couldn't find a equity audit for education. And so what was created is an opportunity for you to look at various different things within a context of instruction, leadership, declarative statements, communication. What would it sound and look like to achieve educational equity in those areas? And so I'm excited about it. It's something that I look forward to, but it's something that we want to continue to do, because at the end of the day, it's about us being our best for our students, because they deserve our very best.
Yes. Keisha said she just registered for the webinar. Can't wait. That's so cool. Yes. And so I'm excited. So do you have like a proof copy of your book yet?
So I have a number of things worked up. I just submitted a few final edits and changes. And every time I'll like be in a space where I'm talking, things continue to come to mind. So I'm always writing, I'm always jotting some things down. And so, yes, it is 93% complete. This morning, I finalized the cover of the book. As a content creator, I love doing those things. And so this is actually my third credit for a book. We have Voices 1 and Voices 2. I'm the co-founder of Black Males in Education St. Louis, BMESTL. And we have Voices 1 and Voices 2. And that was essentially a compilation of enhancing Black male voices and perspectives for us to see perspectives that are different from our own. And so we took it a step further in Voices 2, where we have student voices, because it's so important for us to make sure we're listening to them. I mean, I can provide my perspective, but I can't speak for all Black men. I can't speak for all Black people, and I certainly can't speak for all of our students. So it's very important to make sure we are providing platforms for them to tell their story. And so that has been fun. And those are the two credits that I had previously. But this one, which is how to achieve educational equity, it is solely me. My brother, my absolute brother, Dr. Daryl Diggs, did the foreword. And after I read the foreword, I had no choice but to go back and make sure I was meeting his expectation. Because when I tell you he had a lot to say and his words just captivated so much, that would be an understatement. So again, we're excited about that, how to achieve educational equity, both the webinar on April the 10th, as well as the book that will drop before the actual webinar. Really is a good time. And I'm humbled that these thoughts and these experiences could matriculate into something of this nature.
Yeah, and I love it. Congratulations. And I just saw a couple of people say congratulations and they're glad. Yes, Tim says, yeah, great. It is a great conversation. Yes, and I'm so glad that you're doing this. How does is it your Aunt Connie? Is it Aunt Connie? How does she feel about all of this?
So I had a chance to talk to Aunt Connie, and actually what I will do, because one of the things I always say is being authentic is always important. And not only being authentic, using your absolute voice. And so I had sent Aunt Connie the blog post, and she read it, and she gave me the crying emoji that she was laughing. And she said, "How did I know it had something to do with discipline when you all were growing up?" And then she went on to say, "I instilled such greatness in you all." And I think that's important. That's important. I mean, we typically look at our elders, and she's not an elder, but for the sake of simplicity, our elders, and we understand that now everything that they were trying to do is essentially that, instill greatness in us. And so she did that not only with myself, my siblings, my cousins. She didn't play. And so I didn't think I was going to write about Aunt Connie or that incident, but let's just say Aunt Connie is certainly dear to my heart. She is the best cook ever, and you still have to respect people even if you've been taller than them since 6th grade.
I know my kids are now taller than me.
So Dr. Howard, do you come from like a big family? How many siblings do you have?
So I have 2 siblings. I am the oldest. I have a younger sister who is an assistant principal here in the St. Louis area, and so she is fantastic at the high school level. We collaborate a lot. I try to put her out there. She's still on her own journey, but when I tell you she is amazing, one of the brightest minded individuals and so passionate about students, she is essentially that. And then I have another younger sister, my baby sister. She's in Brooklyn, New York in medical school, doing really good. And it's the 3 of us, and it's my parents. Again, they instilled hard work. They met at Macomb, at Western Illinois. And so they essentially let us know, we don't expect for you to be the best, but anything that you decide to do, you have to work as if you want to be the best. And the best is defined by how well you work and how you're going to grow. And so they really did a really good job with that.
Well, definitely. How have they responded to your book that's coming out?
They haven't seen it yet. I wanted to surprise them as well. They are big fans of Voices 1 and Voices 2. They love the stories. They actually love some of the stories better than what I put on there as the introduction. I think that's a great thing, right? And my father always said, I've paid the ultimate price for always being able to tell you exactly how it is. I don't care. And so we need those things. We need those individuals that will always center us and provide their perspective and enhance the expectation. And so they haven't seen how to achieve educational equity yet. They read the blog post yesterday and they said, oh my goodness, what are you working on? And so later on today, I'm going to provide them with the actual, if they're not already watching, I might add, I'm going to provide them with the bomb, which is I'm dropping a book, and then I'm going to share the book cover, which is essentially just a remarkable and rewarding feeling to have.
Oh yeah.
When do we get to see the book cover?
I know. I really, really want to see it so bad.
Well, I will text it to you all shortly, and then you can see it and we can go from there. But again, I'm excited. Yeah, it's really good. I'll text it now.
Very exciting. I thought we were going to be talking about your volume 2 book, which I'm going to put into the link here again. And then to find out you have this whole other book, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. And when you have a lot to say and when you want to use your platform, it's rewarding. And one thing that does not get said often enough, it's important to understand that this platform, working with BME, writing, this is my self-care. And so when you're doing those things, a lot of people associate that with just work and time. And it is work and time, don't get me wrong, but a consistent message that I've been using is that ongoing learning. We are lifelong learners. We are scholars. And some of the things that I've learned, I mean, it just continues to help me. I mean, a lot of people are familiar with the movie. I think it's Castaway with Tom Hanks. And they asked the question, if you were on an island, what would you need? And I would say, give me a laptop with Wi-Fi so I can stay connected, right? Give me a basketball and some makeshift court, and then some Emo's pizza. And I'm in my family, I'm good to go. And so I think I'm a lifelong learner, and these things really help me, and they do serve as a piece of self-care.
Definitely. One of the educators that I respect, Kim Beard, and she says, self-care involves what feeds your soul. So I love that it feeds your soul so much.
Yep.
Terry says, can we see it? Like she's speaking for us all.
Well, I sent it to you all.
You did?
I did. I just sent it.
It hasn't come through yet.
Did you text it?
Oh, yeah, it just came through.
Okay, wait.
Oh my gosh, I feel terrible because I want to share it so bad, but you got to tell your parents first. Like you can't. Oh my gosh, that looks great. Everybody, you're gonna have to take my word for it. It looks amazing.
This does good.
I love this.
You designed it yourself?
Yes. Content creator. One of the things a lot of people just assume the writing is fun, but you all may know this. One of the things I like more than just writing the blog is once it's time for you to encapsulate what you stated into an image, and then you can design it and do all those things. There have been times that a blog was created after I created the image. I just blank canvas and I want to create an image, and then I'll write based off of what I created. So yes,
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I'm super excited.
I like that. I like how. Yes, I am too. I love it. I think you did a great job on the cover, and I'm sorry that I can't share. I feel like a terrible person, but I'm laughing. Like I'm in on a secret, and it's
the bottom left. That's a picture that was manipulated, and it's looking similar to a painting. But those are my 4 children. I wanted to make sure they were centered, and the alignment piece is that when I see all of our students. I see the way that I feel about them and the success I want them to have. I'm always reminding that someone else feels that way about this particular student that I have a pleasure of serving. And so that's always the piece that's a reminder for me.
Gosh, I love that. I felt that this week so much about, right now my kids are being protected by me. I'm teaching them, thinking about putting them back into the public school when it's safe again, and wondering like, will the teachers that they have see them like I see them? Will they just be seen? Like it's a concern. And I love that Olivia said that she stumbled upon your talk and subscribed to your blogs, and she looks forward to exploring more. That's so cool. And I love that you have 4 kids. You just need to have one more to be in our club.
Gotta be in
No,
the
my daughter, she's trying to talk me into getting a dog or something like that. So she has a little chance with that.
It's that one more kid. I'm just saying, come on, you could do it. After 4, what can't you do? Like 5 kids is amazing. Come on over.
One of the things as a basketball player, everyone loves scoring.
Exactly.
But they also love the assists. And so I'm going to do a no-look pass to Alice. I think she actually.
I have 5.
But 6 though, because then you'll be able to do what Michael Jordan does when he said, "I mean championships." And so I can certainly see you in a book like this, 6 kids and still doing well.
My husband told me if I won't help, I can't have anymore. I think that's very unfair. He did.
I thought you were going to go with like, we need 5 people on a team. Like, that's what I think about all the time. Like, I don't want to have a baseball team. Like, I don't need 9, but 5 is great. Like, we can play basketball. It's all good.
Someone has to be the coach, and someone will need a sub. I mean, because if they're exerting a lot of energy, you have a sub. So technically 6 would suffice.
That's true. It's true. I like that, like putting it off onto Alice, especially. Alice, go for it.
I'd like to have 6, and then I'm going to name him, her, concatenate, and call him Cat for short. That's my plan. But my husband said no, so.
Never too late.
Oh, he made sure it was too
We'll
late.
have a conversation about that name. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I feel like it's too late for me. So, yeah.
For those of you who don't know,
we should.
cat name is a spreadsheet word. Just, I'm going to type it in here.
I was going to ask. I felt a little stupid. I knew it was something that I just couldn't grasp. What do you feel like with ed tech? Like, Dr. Fields, how do you feel in your experience and where you're seeing when you're looking at schools? Like, how has that moved in the right direction, and how has it moved in a direction that you're not really like? I know that's a big question, but in this last year, what are your observations?
I think it's all about what you do with the tool. That's actually how I met Alice. We brought her into a time when I was in an urban space, and we had a lot of fun. And so our teachers were already using a lot of her strategies and her work, and it was used to benefit our kids. And so that would be an example of making sure the intentionality with the technology or the tool is there, because just like we have worksheets, we do have digital worksheets at the end of the day. And so we have to make sure we're trying to solve a problem. We're trying to be much more efficient in what we're doing. And ultimately, we're trying to provide students with tools so then they can have that blank canvas that I spoke about and do whatever it is they need to do. And technology does play a role in that. I think the way that we educate students is very important, and it has shifted. But I'm actually interested in the aftermath now. Like, now that, we have vaccines and God forbid, we're going to be fine and we can establish the new norm, not go back to the norm, but establish a new norm. How are we going to continue to keep students engaged when they are traveling, when they made a poor decision and they may not be in the space with all the students? Their learning cannot stop. Like, I think that's critical, and that should be an expectation. There should be no such thing as students going home and then we don't see you again for 10 days and then your learning paused, because your learning will not pause. How do we leverage all of these technological advancements that we have in these newer platforms to move forward? The other piece is, at the end of the day, is still, for me, comes back to equity. In this regard, based off the question you posed, is that digital equity piece. Not just providing our students in urban environments, or not even urban environments. We have a lot of rural spots where they cannot obtain consistent Wi-Fi. So how do we work with these providers to make sure our students are connected? Because connectivity can be used as a vehicle for students to be successful. Earlier today, when we think about technology and what it can do, we had a coaching session for a flipped job fair. And the flipped job fair, the premise with BMESTL is that we want to empower job seekers, so much so that when they stand or when they sit in front of someone who's looking to hire, they feel confident interviewing them. Because without doing that, a lot of times it just embeds fit and assimilation and all of those other things. We want you to be your authentic self. And part of that, you have to ask some questions and you have to be confident to do that. Well, part of us doing that work, we have a coaching session where we sit down and we talk to educators. And, I'm a district level administrator, in this case, human resources, and Dr. Diggs, he's a principal. So we are at the hiring table a lot. And so some of the strategies that we provided, some of the questions that were able to be asked in all vulnerability was fine. But here's the piece. We had someone who showed their camera and they're saying, hey, I know next week is the job fair. However, can I still show up? And we're like, why wouldn't you want to show up? They said, well, I'm from Kenya and I saw all of the things that you all were doing on social media. I wanted to come. This has been helpful and I want to do all of those things. Well, we had another email after the coaching session from someone from Pakistan saying, can I show up? Wow. So that processing is more so like, wow, due to some of the technological advancements we have, what does the previously unimaginable sound and look like? Because that right there gives me the chills. Because if we can do that for adults, or we can do that to connect adults who can connect with kids, it would be beneficial. My mind is already going in terms of, okay, how do we reach out and have some type of specific webinar support system for our brothers and sisters in Kenya, Pakistan, anywhere else, so that we are learning more about them and their culture, and they are doing the same for us. Because as we put our students out, as they continue to try to navigate this world, then those are primary sources right there. And so again, those are the exciting pieces that are almost like building blocks, if I may, that allow us to continue to be connected. And none of that is possible without the emergence of connectivity, in this case, ed tech.
Yes, I'm getting goosebumps. And I love that you said previously unimaginable. And that's one thing that we have all seen. Like, if we've been connected, there's so much more that we can do, and we're seeing it. That's one of the best things. And our last guest on the Coffee Talk, Alice, was talking about broadband access. Like, this has got to be a part of our system for everybody. And I love that you're saying this again, and I'll shut up in just a second because I'm talking too much. But like, I'm in Alaska, and we are a state in the United States, and I cannot tell you how many teachers across the state are like, we don't have the Wi-Fi necessary to do remote teaching. And I mean, some don't even have a bathroom. Like, running water in all places is not even always typical. So, I mean, and we just got to get away from that one story of how how everybody has what they need, because it's just not true. And we are not a third world country. We are supposed to have everything, and we don't. So we do have to keep talking about this. It's important.
Yeah, and I've learned, you're absolutely correct. And what I've learned is that some people who are not empathetic, or some people who fight so hard against some of these things that promote diversity, equity, and all of those things, oftentimes there's not that ability to be centered around or to do the work where you see different perspectives. You have to make sure we're open to different perspectives. You don't have to agree, because your dynamic is different from mine. If there's 6 months of darkness or 6 months of light, who am I to tell you what you should do in terms of your sleeping pattern? And that's a light example, but it's an example nonetheless. We have to share our different perspectives, but we also have to continue to do what we need to do for students. And so I think we are all trying our best to share our story, but we do have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and we have to make sure we use them in accordance to that.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Definitely. Yes, well, we're getting close to the end of our time together. This has been so great. I do want to make a request of you. After you've shown your parents your cover, and all of it, maybe your Aunt Connie too, like whoever, like the important people in your life, can we share this out too on our social media when you give us the permission? Because I know people are like, I want to see the cover, and I feel so bad that I got to see it and they didn't.
Absolutely. Well, you can certainly do that. As soon as I get off the call, I'll share it with parents and you can push it out. So that will work. Just make sure you direct everyone to the actual webinar. And here's why. Even if you can't show up to the webinar, by registering for the webinar, and it's attached to the blog post as well, you can read the blog post at drhowardfields.com. And it's on that main page. But when you register for the webinar, once the book is available, I can just go ahead and send an email and everyone can be shared. I was going to tap into my inner Beyonce and Drake where I can just drop it unexpectedly, but I don't have that type of pool yet. And so it's going to be a little bit more strategic, but the book is coming. It's going to be the same week of the webinar, and I'm excited about it.
All right.
Okay, we're putting these up here before we go. So here, actionableequity.com, and then you said Dr. Fields.
Dr. Howard Fields, drhowardfields.com.
Okay, got that up there, dropping it. Okay. Awesome. Yes, and then I'm going to drop one more. I'm going to get the blog post again for people that are just coming. This is a very powerful blog post. And if you're not, like, if you're new in the equity work, you're definitely going to, oh, thank you for, and Alice just dropped the link to your Twitter. So that is so wonderful. You're probably going to have to look up a few things because I've been on this journey for a few years, but I had to really like sit with your comments because at first it kind of made me feel like, wait a minute, like, why would you be dogging that image? Like I had to think about it. Like, you know what I'm saying? But then I kept reading. I didn't stop. So I just want to put that out there that, don't be afraid to keep exploring. You pushed my thinking, to be honest. And I loved that. That's what I needed. So I appreciate it. It's a great, great article. So I hope everybody will read it.
Our best learning sometimes comes from the things that cause a visceral effect to when we read them. And so, again, I like the image. There are some things that are great about it. But the premise is that if that's our true north, where we're only looking at that image and we're ignoring some of the things that have been brought up, then that could ultimately harm kids. And if you're just starting, the webinar will be fun, but the book was created with you in mind. We have to continue on our journey. A fellow St. Louis, and I believe Amy Hunter, talks about, I don't believe in calling you out. I believe in calling you in. And so I'm very direct. There's no question about that, but I'm not calling people out and beating them up along those lines. I'm going to defend my position. I'm going to listen. I'm going to do all those things. And you can say a lot of things, but you can't say the experiences that I've had and the things that I've seen, both fortunately and unfortunately, are false. That's just not the case. And we do have to continue with some work in the educational equity realm. In the book, if you're just starting, you would get something out of it. If you're on your journey and you're teaching college courses on educational equity, you'll get something out of it. But more than anything, your students, your colleagues, and your school community will certainly benefit from the time that I believe is very well spent and dive into educational equity.
Awesome. I'm not going to shut. So impressed that you did this cover yourself. I just cannot do this. I keep looking at it. I'm like, this is really good.
Thank you.
Well, I'm just so excited. Congratulations on your book. Congratulations on your cover. Aunt Connie, thank you for all of everything that you did. I'm so glad to know that you pushed. But no, really, congratulations. I look forward to reading your book, and I know I can't wait to hear more about what you're doing. So we'll have you back, and definitely I want to have you on my book chat. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But everybody, thank you for joining us, whether it was Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. We really appreciate you, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.